There's been reasons for certain particular topics to be a topic of much interest to me, and one of them is: are you born gay, or are you molded and shaped to being gay? The reason this is so important is I've been pondering on this for a while, because it actually gets to the deep psychological frame of a person, and if it is a choice, like some people say, then we question why we make these choices to begin with, which ties back into the psychology of the individual. You get what I'm saying? And when you look at this, from my stance, being gay is a state of being. Okay, now one would argue if it's a mental disorder or not. I always talk about how the mind is all, the universe is mental. Your body is an instrument of the mind. And if it's not in accordance with nature, then it's disorderly. Then you are not conducive to nature, right? Nature has a certain way of doing things, and that's in the interest to multiply and procreate. Now, religion will have you believe that you're here specifically to procreate. So you were made to procreate, to multiply, to be fruitful and multiply. And if you look at this, right, we say that being gay is an abomination and it's evil. It's a sin because it doesn't go with God's way of doing things, which is to procreate, multiply. But then let's look at it around and look at what the majority of the planet, right? We say we are all sinners, right? We are born into sin. So I asked a particular person who I was debating whether being gay is, you're born with it, or are you molded and shaped to being gay? And then he says you're molded and shaped to being gay. You're not born gay. But then I asked him if being gay is a sin, and he said yes. So I asked, why is it that if we're born sinners, then why are we not able to be born with the sin of being gay, right? And I'm gonna be going over that debate in my very next video, but this one I want to make it very clear. So here's my disclaimer. I'm a straight guy. So you know how they say that if you're not gay, you shouldn't be talking about certain things unless you are that, right? Now, I totally agree with that. But the whole thing is, I've hung out around plenty of gay people, worked around plenty of gay people. I've even been bold enough to talk to many gay people and ask them questions. And of course, asking for their consent if it's okay that I question certain things that I'm actually genuinely very curious. And they had the trust in answering me directly, right? And some of them will come from a Christian view, some of them will come from a liberal view. So you have to observe these things, right? But one of the most important things here is I had a message from one of my friends, and I'm not going to say who it is, but after the debate, obviously, I got probably like 3 messages. And one of them particularly is one that I want to talk about, right? Because it got my wheels moving and it gets me thinking, right? But one of the things before I actually cover that is that I think about, right? If a person, right? Because there's some people that say you can just, turn straight because God can change you, right? Because since I said it's a mental state of being, and then this is where I'm thinking, I'm like, you can always change your mind, right? Now, we always look at our body and we say our body is an instrument of the mind. You could change your mind about things, right? But one of the things you can never change your mind on is what you are already fundamentally, which is basically when I talk about objective and subjective reality. The only objective truth here is whatever you're expressing as. So if you're born here a man, you can't change that. I don't care how many sex changes you do. You can go change your ID and get it legally done where they will now acknowledge you as a woman. If you were born a man, you're always going to be a man. The chromosomes will never change, right? Now, interestingly enough, I look at things like the biology of belief, epigenetics and whatnot, and I asked these specific questions. Is being human in action, right? Is being gay in action or a mental state? And I'm going to show you what the results of these things came up, right? But being human overall, right? If you're born, let's say, a black man, and you don't like that you're a black man, you want to change to being a black man, a white person. So suppose it the Catholic Church or Christianity says that being black is a sin, right? Now, can you change your color from black to white? The patriarchal order has you believe that women are inferior to men. And it appears that way only by physical force. But there's other things at play that people are not aware of. Same thing with black people and white people, right? Which I can go into as well. But when you look at the patriarchal order, right? Women are put in the back, right? You are to be quiet. You can't say anything. You are to just sit in the back of the church. The reason this is because they are the body of the church. And when you look at your physical body, your awareness, your consciousness, your masculinity is basically in the head area, right? You're aware of things because you are able to see, you're able to hear, you're able to smell, you're able to taste, but the feeling is totally different. You're using your hands for this feeling part, right? You're using a real feminine part, and it's the only one that's away from the head. So you got the body. The body's the feeling. And you know what's crazy? That in The Secret, when it comes to the law of attraction, feeling is the key, right? So when you look at your reality and how you manifest reality, right? When you do magic of any kind, you have to understand that emotions is the engine to driving this magic, to manipulate your reality. Now the head being conscious, right? You may have a feeling, but your conscious mind will decide whether it will go with that flow or not, right? So it's sort of the gatekeeper. But there's a lot of people who are conscious, but they're not aware. So in other words, their conscious mind is just accepting anything into their psyche, and it's getting imprinted into the subconscious mind, which is basically below the head. All right? So when you're looking at this, this is called the disassociated mind. In science, they talk about the right and left brain, how they're disassociated. This creates an imbalance in a person. But there's also a heart-brain coherence. You see, the heart is the emotional mind. It's the feminine mind. The masculine mind is upstairs, even though there's two sides of it, where one side would be feminine. But the subconscious rules 95% of your life. And if you are running on these programs and you are going through hellish loops and you don't know how to get out of it, it's because you have not been aware of those programs. That's lack of awareness. Even though you are conscious, you lack awareness. So just because you're awake, you could be equivalent to a walking zombie. Now, women, for example, they're more of an emotional creature, right? So when they're with a man, right? And this is why words can be misconstrued, and it's very important to watch how you say words, right? You know how somebody could just blindly just tell you women support men. What do you get out of that? When you hear women support men, it can be taken as women financially support you. And that's not even what it is. When I say they're the backbone of a man, is they're supporting you. They're your structure for your support, basically, to get you on your projects. And they're also your container. So if you're doing projects, you project. That's a masculine act. Your woman has a feeling about it. She's more intuitive. You're supposed to work together. And in the physical body, you have this ability to do this for yourself. And if you're properly tuned, your woman will be tuned as well, because your woman is a mirror of you. So whatever flaws you see in her, it's a direct blessing, because she's a direct mirror of you. It's almost like if you're in a toxic relationship and you somehow become aware that she's toxic and you break up with her, but you have no self-awareness, you'll attract the same person in another body. So you have not broken out of those negative loops because you lack awareness. It's like low IQ, right? To have money's an illusion. You could feel very powerful next to a woman, especially if she looks good, right? But it's an illusion because that woman's in you already. So you have to marry yourself. That's where the true power lies. You are also the money. But everything's inverted. You go to work to make money instead of money just being attracted to you based on the works you're doing that don't feel like work. You're doing what you want to do. But I want to get into something that's very important here, because when we look at gay and they say you are not born gay, that it's actually a choice, because it's a very disempowered state to be in, right? It's only disempowered to the gay man if he buys into that from somebody else only because you're trying to convince them of your religion. It's all coming from religion. And if you think that being gay is a choice and that it's a disempowered state because you can't choose to be straight, then you are just in a religious mindset, and you need to acknowledge that. You have to acknowledge that. Because the same way women are convinced here that they ain't shit because the man, the patriarchy, and it's all by force, is lack of awareness. But the man is also manipulated into believing this. And that's why man thinks he's powerful, but he's not really powerful. He's not powerful. It's almost the same way where you acquire all this money and you think you're powerful, but money is just an illusion. There's nothing backing money up. Money is just paper. But yet you have to have an IQ to manage yourself in the reality to actually be able to sustain that energetic flow of money, because it actually holds a lot of power because people believe in it. People are the engine. People are the fucking money. And the reason money has power is because people give it money. If I have $1 bill and $100 bill, what's the difference between them to print them? It's just paper. You're just adding a couple zeros and maybe some extra little holograms and whatnot. But people give $1 bill one time the value and give this one 100 times more value. And the collective believe in this. It's a system ran on the illusion of money. So you think you're powerful, and then you think you have the authority to tell a woman what to do because you have money. That's where it fundamentally comes from. Because why do you think these red pillars talk about get your finances right, get your shit right, get your life in order, and then you can you can get the girl. That's the fundamental message. That's the fundamental message. So it's an illusion of power, right? God, the illusion of power that it has is because people put the collective, a large collective, put a very large interest into that. That's why it has power. But there really is no power to that outside deity that you see outside of yourself. There is no outside deity. It's not going to save you. The same way money won't save you either. When you die, you don't take any of the riches with you. So you think you have this type of power that you accomplished here, but it's to keep you entertained from knowing what true power is. Because when you die, to enter the kingdom of heaven with all these riches is like entering through the the eye of a needle or something like that, where they talk about it's equivalent to a camel entering through the eye of a needle. And the reason why is because it's an illusion. There's nothing here that you can take physically. It's just for you to experience. You're in the world, but not of it. So now this choice thing, I want to read what my friend sent to me, and we are going to talk about one specific part that got me thinking, right? And I love this guy, bro. He's a good friend of mine. Actually, one of the coolest people I actually know. And I don't even, and I mean, we'll just leave it there. I don't know why. It came to mind all of a sudden today, but the whole choice thing with the gays. What I hear when I've heard born this way is, I don't have a choice. And that is a very disempowered place to be in. I mentioned trauma and alcohol abuse being the two things that almost every gay person I've encountered had in common, which is a subjective reality. That's an anecdotal claim I meant to say. That's an anecdotal claim. And the reason why is because me being in the fitness industry, I've met gay bodybuilders. They don't drink. They don't do anything. They've never had traumas. They've actually had straight siblings, right? Their testosterone is perfect because they work out, they eat good, and they do what they're supposed to do. They're just gay. But we'll get into that. Being the two things that almost every gay person I've encountered had in common, which I believe makes it easier for the mind to slip into accepting and reinforcing things that are unnatural to a hormonally and emotionally balanced individual. So in that line of thought, the traumatic events as well as actions, drug abuse, etc. can cause people to enjoy acts of depravity, in effect rewiring their circuitry to get a dopamine pleasurable response to them. So the thought I had was, what if some people are born with that, or more susceptible to have that wiring of getting pleasure from certain acts? That is something I mentioned as well. That I believe all these fucked up hormone blockers and endocrine disruptors that people consume with foods, vaccines, could have a part to play, as has been shown that they can cause a whole myriad of health issues. So I can't then say I don't think they are born that way if indeed their wiring has been fucked from the start. And yet I can say that because I still believe people have choice as to what to engage in and reinforce in their life. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Nature versus nurture. Oftentimes in life, the solution to a problem can be found in the middle, around mid-guard. And instead of this or that, it is often both and more when looked at from a certain vantage point. Now, those are valid points, right? Valid points. But here's the thing though. What causes a person to be black and another one to be white? Right? I mean, it's just genetic factors, because it's one of the things that contribute to a person being gay. While chemicals and all these things that we're exposed to, where it could be done from the womb of the mom being exposed to her whole life, and the father having poor sperm quality because of maybe all the shit that he's been doing or the mentalities he's had, you pass down these genetics to the individual, just like you pass down diseases to an individual. But being gay is not a disease. You get what I'm saying? The way I look at being gay is if a person's born white and a person's born being black. If a person's born a female or a person's born a male, right? Now, these imbalances come like this. Suppose that there's people who come and they say that they feel like they're in the wrong body, right? Well, I could say a lot of people can basically have this experience as well. Some people go to work every day, do things they don't want to do, and they are living a miserable life. But what is that, right? Lack of self-awareness. That's why the Bible says, man, know thyself. Have you stopped entertaining the things outside of you and explored what your inner child is? Like, literally just disconnect. Ask the most genuine questions you can ask. And in this is you talking to your woman, by the way, your subconscious mind. And the crazy thing is that the things aren't going to just pop out there. They'll pop out when you least expect it. When you're not trying. When you're not trying, they pop out. You may have the question answered and it'll come as a hunch, inspiration, an idea, and it'll pop up the moment you wake up or the moments where you're just drifting off to sleep. If you ask these questions, your subconscious mind goes to work. And it may not even happen that day, but it'll happen in time. And the more you ponder on it, it'll pop up. Your body will always respond. It keeps notes of what you're doing, including the negative programming. It doesn't know the difference between a real or fake experience. But things, sometimes they're buried so deep, the body goes to work for you. This is the body of Christ. The body of Christ is always trying to heal. If you get a cut, it's going to heal itself. You're not doing anything to heal the cut. Inner wounds that you have, your body's also trying to heal. But the way that you heal it is giving it attention, giving it the light of God. That's you putting attention to the things that are in the dark. So you give it light. And that's how your body is saying, thank you, now I can heal. The same way if you're fucked up in the game, your body's always trying to heal. It's just that you're always getting in the way by giving it fucking things to have to process. Because you think you need to eat. Like sometimes you want to eat something, right? But do you stop and ask yourself, am I really hungry or am I just trying to get a fix? Some people are not even really hungry. They're just trying to get a quick fix. Now this is hard on the body. Because if you think about it, if you're sick, let's say, the best way to heal your body is fasting, not eating anything. Even the Bible says, your very Bible says this. Fasting heals all diseases. So the fact that you can get your body to rest from all the shit you're putting into it, you know what happens? It takes energy for the body to have to detox and get rid of shit. So now that you're not giving it things to actually have to process and use energy to do that, now the body redirects that energy to actually detoxing and going to work on the things to get the body back into homeostasis. So the same way when you fasting or meditate, your body, you're talking to yourself. You're disconnecting from everything. Close your eyes, go in the dark and talk to your body. Ask the most genuine questions. And not only that, but you'll actually know what questions to ask, because sometimes you may not even know what questions to ask. And you will get the answers. They will come up. Being gay, you're born being gay. The same way you're born black or white, or born a woman or a man. It's a fundamental state of being. So if you say it's a choice, when you go to bed with your woman and you're a straight man, do you think about your little wee-wee getting hard? Or does it just happen automatically? right? So if like me, for example, I can't fathom liking something that's not a woman. I love women. I cannot get turned on by a man. So suppose that I said, I'm tired of being straight. Women suck. I'm tired of women. I'm going to go be gay. It's just something that's impossible. As much as I try, my dick won't get hard. In fact, I'll get repulsed. I may vomit on the person. So you force yourself, you say you force yourself to doing that? Like it's a choice? It's not a choice. Like what are you turned on by? Like how is it a choice? That doesn't make any fucking sense. So it's you, like once you observe this, you'll know this as a child. But a lot of people, even though, and I've asked certain people, they said they're gay. But that they blame it on the fact that the technology, there was a lot of porn, and then there was other guys that were throwing it. Like, it's like almost like growing up saying, I'm like being a victim. Like growing up with all these problems in life and blaming your parents constantly. At what point do you stop blaming your parents and know you're a fucked up individual, and you either can transmute your life, right, and do something different? Now, in the context of being gay, you can't change that. But this part comes down to actually acceptance and looking at that as an actual superpower. You are a man and you like another man. In the physical realm, you must understand that if you're gay, you embrace that, but know that you are going against nature. You are not somebody that should, and you, all right, I'll tell you what. Here's the problem I have with this, and this is why I'm very passionate about it. When you're gay and you start pushing it on other people, that's the problem I have. When you want to have children and you want to raise children, I think that's wrong. You shouldn't have children. You're gay. So do the gay life. It's almost like like you're a Satanist, but you want to have crosses and like angels and saints in your house. It's not conducive. Or going to church. Just do your Satanist shit. It happens behind closed doors. That's good. The straight people can be straight, right? Do you have a straight holiday? There's no straight holidays, right? There's nothing there celebrating straightness. But why is it that the gayness is celebrated? But I don't think it's even gay people celebrating it. I think it's certain companies and people that are in power that promote these things, and people buy into it because they associate with it, and it's creating this illusion of separation. Because gay people don't affect me in any kind of way, and I've grew up around them my whole life, right? I moved here to the South. I've got a lot of people here who are all straight, right? There's a few sprinkled gay people around here, but they're not as open as they are up in the fucking north in the city. But because it's the state allows it. It's like certain things that are just, they're allowed. It's like I visit different cities, different states also. And you'll notice that certain states you visit, they're all different. It's like you're visiting different energy centers. Like everybody has a different state of being. And whatever city you're in, those are the citizens that you are looking at. Like the citizens of the state. The citizens are the state. And it forms a state of being around that state, whether it's a blue or a red state. There's certain leaders there that will like accommodate to whatever the people are. But when you look at, for example, the whole world overall in totality, every country has different cultures and ways of doing things. But it all comes down to religion. So a person, for example, who sees being gay as a problem is because they fell into a religious doctrine. They all of a sudden say it is wrong to be gay because you bought this idea from other people. And now all of a sudden you say being gay is a problem, and then you turn to Jesus, and then you come out and say, I am no longer gay. I'm no longer gay. Now I'm straight. No, man. You're suppressing something, and you're hiding it in the shadow because you know that's not true. You know that's not true. You prayed the gay away. Now, I'm going to get into another topic that's very interesting because I'm a hypnotist, right? When people have addictions, you can actually help a lot of people through addictive behavior, through hypnosis, right? And we have something called conversion therapy that try to get people to change from being gay to straight. But this involves a lot of trauma, mental hypnosis, repetition, and a lot of symbolism, right? But even to this day, there hasn't been any credible fact to show that conversion therapy works. None. And on top of that, hypnosis hasn't done a job of that either. Now, you can convince somebody, right? You've seen these staged hypnotists to convince somebody to act like a frog or act like a dog or whatnot. There's some people who do that now. If you go to certain cities, you got people who walk other humans on a leash and they say, this is my pet. That's a mental disorder. Because you're not, first of all, you're not the body, but you're not getting away from having this experience overall. But it's not all here. And know that whatever is happening metaphysically influences the physical. You create your reality. You are the world that you're creating from your mental state. So when you look at something, your body is an instrument of the mind. You could change your mind, but you can't change. Your body changes every 7 years. You have a different body. You have a different persona even. You can adopt different ideologies, different ideas, and then you associate with this as an identity, and this influences your actions. But one thing that can never change is that even though your body changes every 7 years because your body's made of cells, your cells change and everything dies and comes back again, right? It doesn't change your gender. And it won't change your skin color either. You're either black or white. So you're either gay or straight. That's why I don't believe in bisexuality. Because me buying into bisexuality means that I can buy into everything else being gray instead of black and white. So if you say, I like women, but I like men too, and you're a guy, but you like more women than you do men, but you still couldn't sleep with a guy, you're gay. You're gay. Because if that's the case, then I would have to say that being a transvestite is, if you're dressed like a woman, then you are a woman. So some people say it's an action, right? If it's an action, say a guy decides to dress like a woman and do everything, like he's acting like a woman. Does that make him a woman? No, he's acting. There's people who do gay for pay. And they're straight. They're just doing it for the money. But that's lack of integrity, right? Because you're selling your soul for money. That's where money's the root of all evil. You may not necessarily want to do it, but you're doing it for the money. There's people who make movies. There was a movie called Brokeback Mountain. Two famous actors, Heath Ledger and Jake Gyllenhaal, made that movie. They got paid a lot of money, but they're heterosexual men. They're not homosexual. You see what I'm saying? Gay porn is full of dudes who are straight, but the money is good, so they'll do it. They give themselves all these drugs and all these things to actually get their wanker hard. Some of them watch straight porn before getting into a gay act with a man. And now through repetition, you may get used to it. It may not even bother you anymore. It may just feel like work. The same way people go and do things against the grain, but the human is very easily adaptable. So you go and act your life out every day and it just becomes second nature. You may not like what you're doing, but you're doing it anyway. You're no different than the guy who's getting paid to do porn. A lot of guys don't like their job, but they do it anyway. So, like, that's why there's things that everybody does. They're pointing the finger, but they don't know they're doing it themselves. It's always an indirect mirror. Women, for example, have a lot of power here in this reality. You know, the crazy thing is a girl could smile at you, give you a little game, just a little game. Look how fucking weak in the knees a guy can get. Notice how his demeanor is, he gets all nervous and shit. How a girl got all that power over a guy? Huh? And that's on a light level. Now all of a sudden guys want to act like, you know, they're so powerful and whatnot. And it's all suppression. You're acting manly. The same way you think being gay is an action, you're not really manly. You're acting manly. Now, I don't like, I'm going to tell you right now, my woman, she watches my videos, she submits to me, but I don't have to force her to submit. She does what she needs to do. She knows what she has to do. And it doesn't feel like anything unnatural or work. The same way everything has, the sun has order over the chaotic natures of the feminine planet. It's not forced. It's just something that naturally happens. And that's how the people and everything in the world can live, because everything's happening harmoniously. Your body's made of cells. The reason the masculine and feminine work together is so that the experience of your cells are working in harmony. But there's a filter here. The way it's designed, the monetary system, the education system, the pharmaceutical system, all this is unnatural. But you're in this system. That's why you feel lost. You can't find yourself, because you're in a system that you're not in a natural state. That's why it's hard to know yourself when you have to do things that go against your natural nature. Even the food you eat, buying things in the supermarket. Not everybody knows how to even grow a fucking tomato or watermelons or anything. Nothing. The simplest things. How to condition the soil, what type of chemistry is happening there. Believe it or not, you learning those things, you get to learn a lot more about your physical body, because your body is a product of nature. Man comes on the soil, he dies, he goes back to the soil. What is real hydration? And how important is hydration? Why, when scientists are looking for signs of life in other planets, the first thing they're looking for is water, right? Water is a fundamental sign of life. And everybody's walking around dehydrated. You know why? Because when you go to the hospital, what's the first thing they do to you? They plug you under an IV. Just to get the fucking fluids in you and correct the pH in your body. Because everybody's problem is a chronic acidic and dehydration state when they go to the hospital. So that's how they put you back in homeostasis before they test anything else, is to give you an IV drip. You think drinking water is hydrating, and it's not. The foods you're eating are very dehydrating, and then you're low on energy, so you look for more dehydrating things like caffeine to give you the stimulation. When in actuality, sometimes it's not even that you have low energy from like anything other than you're just dehydrated and not breathing properly. What happens if you're in an airplane and you're like running out of oxygen? You feel like you're gonna pass out. So what do? You breathe, and how long can you go without air? You can't go more than, what, a couple minutes before you pass out? How long can you go without water? And then how long can you go without food? Obviously, you can go the longest without food, but we all prioritize food first, right? So I'll give you another example because it segues into what I was going to talk about here. A dog. I have a male dog, right? Horny motherfucker. But when he's horny, he'll hump other male dogs, and he's a male dog. Is he aware of a gender or anything like that? He just wants to get his rocks off, right? We talk about animals, their interest is to procreate, right? That's what their interest is, to procreate and ensure the survivability of their genes. They make you think that you're one of those animals that have to do that, right? Now, my dog will even hump a leg just to get his rocks off. So this feeling of horniness is just something no different than if you want to eat, it'll get rid of the hunger pains. And if you just get your rocks off, it'll get that horny feeling away, right? But what happens, you can move this urgency around, right? Because let's say, for example, you're fasting, the first 2 days are the roughest. You notice how the longer you stop eating, the less you feel like you have to eat? Why? The body's attention is going and redirected toward other things. When you, for example, abstain from sex or busting enough for a while, you actually got to look down and question if the shit still works, right? But notice how when you're active, you're constantly active. It's like your energy is there. But how come you don't consciously redirect this energy, especially when you feel these urges, these crazy sensations of wanting to get your rocks off? The reason we have godlike abilities is we can move this around. We're not the type that has to hump a tree or hump a leg, right? And don't get me wrong, I love busting nuts and I love having sex. But everything has to be done in natural, structured order. When you have this urgency, you bring this energy up, right? And you just envision the energy just traveling up. It can go into the heart, it can go into the solar plexus, the creativity center, your ability to speak, your mind, your crown. It's like you can just basically move this energy around. And say, for example, you know how you could do this? If you're watching this video up until this point, sit there very, very still. And I want you to close your eyes 1 second. And the next thing I want you to do is 5 seconds. Direct that energy now and put the focus on your feet. And now tell me if you didn't just start feeling your feet. Like you literally start to feel your feet. You may feel certain sensations in your feet just because your attention went there. So it's more or less, they say energy flows where attention goes. Your energy is, your awareness is where it's going to go. So where the head goes, the body follows, right? This is a real thing. This is not pseudoscience, because I just literally proved that if you're sitting still and you direct your energy to your feet, you will feel your feet. Now direct that energy to your hands. But be very, very still. You feel your hands. But now what happened to your feet? You lost the awareness of your feet, right? But now when I said that, it might go back to your feet. Can you feel both at the same time? You know how to turn on all your chakras in between on? Focus on your crown and your root chakra simultaneously. And everything in the middle starts to coordinate. That's how you start to tune your body properly. Now, a dog, for example, I had a call that came in, so I'll just make this one a part 2. A dog doesn't have an ability to do this, moving the energy centers around consciously. You get what I'm saying? But one of the things you can't change is your sexual orientation. And anybody that actually tells you that it's a sin, it's no different than discriminating. It's almost like telling a little black boy that it's wrong to be black. Or telling a woman it's wrong to be a woman. Blacks were looked down at one point, right? They were slaves, supposedly. Because I don't believe in nothing in history. Nothing. But that's just my opinions, okay? I believe in the now moment. The now can actually even change the past. But it can significantly influence the future. And one of the things is that this illusion of separation, you got society having religions war with each other. The key is to get everybody separated. The more separate, the more powerful whatever opposition you're looking at becomes. And this is your ego. That's all it is. That opposition you look at outside of you as the controllers of the world is your ego. That's what everything outside of you is, your ego. If you are able to manage yourself and not see a separation literally between them two, you could actually put your ego aside. You will actually see the connectiveness between you and the other person. What's funny is that I happen to enjoy engaging in conversations and in debates with people that I don't see eye to eye with. And it's not for malicious intent. It's that genuinely I want to challenge myself and I want to challenge the other person. And I don't do it with malicious intent. It never comes out with negative energy, but I do match the energy if it ever came to me that way. I'm always the type of person that I will present myself the way I want to be seen because it's the way that I am. I'm going to tell you right now. I look at myself and I say, if I was a person outside of me, would I prefer being my friend or my enemy? Right? And I would prefer being my friend. I really would. Why would I want to be my enemy? I know how I am. You know what I'm saying? I know how I am. And it's not to say I'm a bad person. Right? But if you match a negative to me, I match it back. And this isn't a debate form. But if it comes into a physical state, I can avoid it as much as possible. But if it gets to a point I can't, then you have to take the ass whooping. That's basically how I am. So people would say, oh, you should turn the other cheek and whatnot. I mean, that's all religious too. Who says that anybody has to do anything like that? Get stepped on and walked over. Why? Right? They show you this version of Christ. Christ is you, by the way. But then they show you the other one that wants to bring wrath and destruction to everybody. Which one are you? We're looking at it outside of ourselves. It's like the Christ, Jesus is here walking the planet, and you could see all versions of it. And you could even see the ones that are actually anti-Christ. Anti-Christ are not the ones that you would look at as evil or anything like that. Antichrist is basically the ones that support the matrix that we're in. And it's something that's designed to go against the ones that see things as actual Christ. But that's versing is keeping the structure and the system alive. So even the ones that are antichrist, you don't even have to look at those as the adversary or look at Christ as the ones that are your friends either. At all. Let me see if there was something I want to cover. I want to cover this part here. Check this out. I typed in on Google, is being gay in action? No, being gay is not in action. It is a sexual orientation which refers to an enduring pattern of emotional, romantic, and or sexual attractions to people of the same gender. It is not a choice or a behavior that can be changed. Elaboration, sexual orientation. And the reason I'm reading Google is because a lot of people like to be Google scholars. I don't base my opinions on Google. I base my opinions on common sense. And, if you sit down and talk to God, you will get answers. But here's the thing, though. Even that will be misconstrued by others. Because some people will say, oh, but you say you don't believe in God. I'm not talking about your white guy. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about that. The white guy that you see in the sky that, with the white beard that talks to, I'm not talking about that. That's the one they have you believe. Right? It's like Santa Claus. When you're taught as a child to believe in Santa Claus is actually in you. Right? When you look at the actual body and the whole, you can actually hear Santo Bonacci talk about this. How the claustrum is a sacred fluid that travels down the channel, down the spinal cord. And that's where you get Santa coming down the chimney, bringing the gifts to your house, right? These things they go down to the sacral plexus, they germinate, right? And then things happen where this energy gets redirected back up. We call that the ascension. We got 33 vertebrae, just like Jesus Christ died at 33, right? You have the atlanto-occipital joint right there. Right? That's the story of Atlas carrying the world on his shoulders. You got the weight of the world on your shoulders. He got the whole world in his hand, right? That can also mean all the organs in the body. That's how you get reflexology. We'll get into another because I've talked about that many times on my videos. Elaboration. Sexual orientation is a fundamental aspect of a person's identity, describing the genders to which they are attracted, not a choice. Extensive research indicates that the sexual orientation is not conscious decision or a learned behavior. It is believed to be influenced by a combination of biological factors, including genetics, prenatal conditions, which are largely determined by birth. Anything else you hear about choice and whatnot, it's all religious, right? So when you're talking to somebody about if being gay is a choice or an action, you're talking, it becomes a religious debate. It does. It comes down to morality. And then when I come and redirect things down to morality, they say I'm moving the goalpost. It's almost like if you have a disease, you're just treating the symptom rather than addressing the root cause. You would have to peel back the layers and trace things back and see that there's a broader spectrum of things, not just the one little thing. That's how weak-ass debaters sometimes operate. They want to look at one topic and think that they're winning a debate because they address that one topic. And that's not even how it works. Delusion. Not in action. While individuals express their sexual orientation through behaviors, the orientation itself is not in action. For example, a gay person might engage in dating or sexual activity, but these actions are expressions of their inherited attraction, not the cause of it. Attraction, not action. Being gay is about attraction, not simply engaging in specific behaviors. A gay person may or may not engage in certain actions, but their underlying attractions to their same gender is defining characteristics of their orientation. I want to explain something here. If you're gay and you're religious, the best thing for you to do is abstain from it. You just don't engage in it because you're all about the religion. So what you do to respect your religion is don't act or engage in gayness, right? But who is to say that being straight is also normal? If everybody in this world is a virus and the world is malicious, then why be fruitful and multiply? That's the point I was going to make before when I was talking about the be fruitful and multiply. Then why would we multiply our species to bring more viruses here on the planet? Because we are a walking virus, and when we talk, we implant mind viruses into a weak person. So these people who are easily impressionable are the ones that get programmed a lot easier. You could see this through people who easily get hypnotized a lot easier and whatnot. And there's people who are not easily impressionable. It's like somebody is easily, like some people can just vomit easily. Some people may not. Some people pass out easily than others. I can see the most gruesome thing. It's I've never been unconscious. Like I literally like knocked out or like passed out. That's never happened to me in my whole 45 years. It's never happened to me. So I'm not somebody who's easily like unconscious or easily hypnotized, but I would have to be very relaxed to self-hypnotize myself. And I do use a lot of logic and reasoning, but I connect myself with my emotional part, to try to integrate these two things, right? So having this compassion, right, is literally just engaging in that balance to be able to analyze the things outside of you and have the same level of acceptance you expect others to have. You would have to have it as well. The acceptance of there's heinous shit that happens on the planet. It's not a direct trigger to me, because if it was, I would have to question why that is. That means I got some shadow work to do. If it's a direct trigger, there's people who get very triggered by certain things they see online, things that they see as far as politics, pedos. You know what I'm saying? Why the Epstein thing is all fucking, why is it so prominent, right? You know where the little programming comes in here? They make you think that being rich and powerful is the best way to get out of any scenario here. Because look, for example, all of the rich and powerful have had proofs against them with evidence, like Diddy, and they still come out clean. That makes you believe that being rich and powerful is the only way that you can get out of doing heinous shit. So you sit here kind of desiring to have those kind of powers, right? Because if you're poor, you'll be rotting in jail. Just like if you're poor here in any kind of way, you'll be subjected to a certain condition, and the only way to get out is by changing your thinking. Because you attract what you are. This is why I say it's not just influence creates thinking and thinking creates behavior, because the thinking part is the identity part. You attract what you are. So it's a level of thinking, but it's what you identify as. Because the thinking can also be distorted, right? The thinking could be that you could be thinking of something outside of you as a powerful God, or you could be thinking of the God within you. Which one are you identifying as, right? But the identity is the big telltale sign of where your thinking actually comes from. What are you identifying as, right? How do you see yourself? Others will see you the same. How do you express yourself? How do you carry yourself? Where was I getting at? Yeah, so like I was saying, when you attract, right? You notice how to attract, it's basically a state of being. You're being attractive. So you relax and allow things to come to you. Like being actionary, like pursuing, chasing, is more masculine. But there has to be a balance between action and doing. It's almost like saying faith without works is dead. So when you believe in something, then you take the action on it. You get what I'm saying? But there's a structure, and you see it happening beforehand. It's almost like I compared the example of the guy Ilia Topuria, the UFC fighter. This guy predicted what round he would knock out his opponent in, and he's done this already through his last 3 fights. Knocked out 3 of the top elite fighters in the UFC. But then when you act on this, it's not to say that, I feel unstoppable. The reason you know this is you put all your practice into play. Because you prepared for a fight. So you prepared a training camp. Once the training camp is over, you never made shortcuts, you completed the diet, you did everything you needed to do, you already won. So you already predict the fight, no matter what happens. And it comes to fruition because you believe in it so much. Your work was done. You put your faith into the process that it's going to happen. You have a strong mind. You almost look like a prophet. See what I'm saying? You almost look like somebody who predicts the future. So if you sit there and you want to analyze how to get your life to work in order, it's almost like you would have to be a prophet. But it would have to come to a belief. Look at it clearly. Sit and relax with it. Feel it in your mind already. Then you prepare for it as if it's already there. I'll give you an example. I had... when I was prepping my garden for the first time, I remember I wanted to get wood chips, and I kept going to Lowe's, Walmart, and I mean, it was just like these wood chips they sold was garbage. They were tinted, and on top of that, it looked like they just broke apart pallets. That's what it looked like, and they were charging a lot of money for it. And I was like, nah, I'm growing food. I'm not doing this for any purpose. So I'm not gonna buy these these wood chips, and they're way too expensive. I didn't want to do it. But the whole thing is, I kept prepping my garden as if I already had these wood chips. I kept saying to myself, I gotta find a way to get wood chips. I was gonna go to the forest and get fucking like toppings and whatever. I was thinking about it, right? But in my mind, I kept seeing videos of like people talking about the back to Eden method, and they were saying that you can get free wood chips from certain companies. But I tried that, and it was like a long waiting period, right? Even if you donate. But the thing is, I kept prepping my garden as if I already had these wood chips. Little did I know, I met a guy, and we were getting into conversation, and he told me, oh, you know, you got a weird accent. You're not from around here, right? I'm like, nah, I'm from New York, man. But you know what? And then he's like, well, what made you move down here? I was like, and I told him why. And I told him I love New York, but I also love the South here. There's things I like about it. And I actually mentioned specifically, I got into gardening. That's something that I would have never got into if I was still in New York. He's like, oh yeah, I meet a lot of gardeners. And all of a sudden I got excited because now I was going to think about, getting into conversations with him about, plants and what he grows and maybe pick his mind on certain things. And he goes, no, I have my own company. I actually take trees down and I convert them into wood chips. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You get what I'm saying? I really couldn't believe what I was hearing. And then I said to myself, I'm like, wow. I was like, I need wood chips. I'm like, listen, how much would you charge me? I'm like looking for wood chips. I just moved down here. I don't even know where to get wood chips. But can I buy some off of you? He's like, nah, man, you know what? I'll just bring them to your house for free, bro. Like, just tell me where you live, because sometimes I get so much, I don't even know what to do with them. Just tell me where you live, and I could bring you the wood chips to you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Till this day, this was like 4 years ago. He brings me, I text him. I tell him, hey man, you think you could bring me some wood chips? And I've never given this guy a red cent for any of the piles of wood chips he brings me. And he brings me truckloads of wood chips, right? He brings the dump truck, boop, dumps the wood chips, and goes on his merry way. Every time I text him, hey man, you be in town, just let me know if I can get some wood chips. And he always texts me, he's like, yeah, just give me a few days. If I'm around the area and I got wood chips, I'll give it to you. No more than 2 days, 3 days, I got the pile there sitting, steaming. And it's the best, I manifested that, right? And if I was talking about it, I would say I predicted the future there, right? I was prepping my garden as if it already happened. Now, I did it slightly unconscious though. Now, you could do this consciously where you can expect for that to happen. Because I was surprised when it happened, but I was very grateful. So it bleeds into you getting more of it because you are the universe, if you want to call, this is just a fancy word for God, right? Which is basically the everything that you see is basically you projected from your body. It's all you. So because you had this urge, this feeling, this desire, but it was pure and it was passion. It was a pure urge and desire, right? Because I love gardening, like a child wanting a toy. And basically he behaved so well that he gets the toy in Christmas. I did my works so meticulously in my garden. Everything was thriving. I look like I have a green thumb, but I got gifted with those wood chips from the universe. That's like being a good boy and getting gifts on Christmas. When you work meticulously, take care of your plants, which is why I said that when I garden and I'm looking at my watermelons, I just did a gardening video. You guys should check it out. It's pretty cool. And I'm looking at these watermelons swelling up, and I feel like a kid waiting for his gifts to unwrap in Christmas. Because I'm waiting for the watermelons to be ready for me to pick. Because I love eating seeded watermelons every year and doing a 7-day watermelon cleanse every year. It's life-changing when you do that. Doing a 7-day watermelon cleanse is life-changing. It really is. And I do it on grapes because I grow my own grapes. I grow cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers. I've got okra. And I've got papaya trees. I've got a lot of good stuff. Beautiful things. Beets, which I got to pick those now. And blackberries. All the berries you could possibly think of. Raspberries, strawberries, blueberries. Raspberries are one of the most amazing things that I pick. And they're great for your brain. This is why I feel like my brain's on steroids. The color says a lot too. You're actually balancing that energy center, right? But blackberries are a powerhouse for your brain. And I pick those and I freeze them. I've got like 12 Ziploc bags in my food in my freezer. What I do is I make smoothies out of them because I can't keep up with just eating them like that. You know what I'm saying? So I make smoothies out of them, and I enjoy them like that better than just eating them. You get what I'm saying? They're more filling. They're more nutritious for me. I add that local farm honey. I got a boy over here who has a farm, and also the a banana, and just dump water in there, blend it, and you got a beautiful smoothie. Doesn't taste no better than that. If you want to add peanut butter, almond butter, whatever you want to do, you could add that too. It tastes literally like one of those smoothies you buy in those smoothie places. Amazing. And I got it in my own home anytime I want. I veered off the topic of the whole gay thing, but let me read on to the next thing, and so we can close off this video. Distinction from behavior. It is important to distinguish between sexual orientation and sexual behavior. A person's sexual orientation is their inherited attraction, while their sexual behavior is how they choose to express that attraction. So you see what I'm saying, right? So you'll express your behavior according to your state of being, right? But being gay is a mental state of being. Now, if you're gay, embrace it, right? But know that you are of the negative nature. Know that you are not conducive to nature. You could embrace your gayness, but don't bring it around the children. Don't bring it around other people, because I compare this to a vegan, right? Wanting to push his diet on other people. Why do that? Just eat vegan, right? Eat vegan. You become an activist and you want to defend animals, but fundamentally you don't even know why you defend animals, because I'll debate a vegan too. So it becomes a religion, right? It's a religion, because you depend on followers. You come from the concept of good and evil, right and wrong, moral or unmoral. So you want to push that diet onto others. You want to push your gayness onto others, right? And all these things are you falling in love with a philosophy and wanting to push it on somebody else. That's where I have a problem. If a woman is a woman, she can never be equal to the man. You play your role as a woman, right? But you're not a man, even though you channel masculine energy. The same way a gay person, you may channel feminine energy, but it's not to say because you're a man and you channel feminine energy and you feel like a woman and you like to sleep with other men, that other people should be doing that. Now, you don't have to have other people accept that. As long as you accept it within yourself and you don't see nothing wrong with it, you'll attract people who will accept you. Because I see a lot of very famous gay people on YouTube, and they're loved by many people, but only because they've truly accepted that within themselves unapologetically, and they're not looking for approval from anybody for being gay. You get what I'm saying? A woman is a woman. A woman has her abilities and her powers, and it balances the physical force and strength that a man has here in this physical realm. But since the ego is in control, it influences man to think that he's manly, and he's just acting manly, but he's not really manly. So he pushes this force on the feminine. The feminine doesn't need to be forced. The sun or anything in your reality doesn't force anything to submit to it or follow it. It just does it naturally. Jesus didn't force disciples to go to you, to him, right? They just followed. But that's all symbology. Those are allegories. Because here's the thing though, if you're really wanting to be Christ-like, right? You notice how I said, how do you know being heterosexual ain't inverted too? Right? You said you're here to procreate. You're not here to procreate, but to procreate is to know thyself first and know why you're bringing up another person into this planet, right? And when you do this, understand that the woman has to be nurtured a certain way. It's kind of like a conscious gardener, because you see, religious people like Jesse Lee Peterson tend to say that women tend to turn their kids away from their father. They have anger issues, and it's inherited from the mom. It's like you're always bringing it back down to the feminine, right? But understand that this could have started from the masculine too, right? If you have a woman and she's pregnant and you either beat her or you cause her to get angry or you do certain things that are not conducive to the environment of her, you're affecting the baby. And then the baby comes out, and yeah, that anger is inherited from the mom because it was influenced by the environment that was set up by the gardener, the man. You see why you have to be born again of the Father and actually have an awareness of God, like masculine awareness, like conscious awareness? Because you can create, or you can create consciously or unconsciously. You're always creating. So when you look at it, the woman is still being molded by the man. The same way a child is molded by their parents or their environment from the ages of 1 to 7. But it starts from the womb. So if the woman is getting beat, the child's absorbing that. If the woman's getting yelled at, the child's absorbing that. If the woman is eating garbage, right, because the man don't know any better than to feed his woman, then it's affecting the baby. The baby could be born gay from the traumas, right? It could be born with anger issues, deficiencies, whatever it may be. The body kept score of all this, and it's going to express in the physical realm. So a child is born into the world. This is the kingdom of heaven, because the kingdom of heaven is within you. The moment you open your eyes and become aware, you're aware of the kingdom of heaven because it's within you. You're aware of yourself when you open up your reality. But that awareness, that self-awareness, that's God. That's God. That you're aware. You're conscious. That's Christ consciousness. Christ, Jesus Christ. You are Jesus. You're Christ consciousness. You do unto others as you will want done unto you, because you know this. You don't have to follow a doctrine or because you're afraid to go to hell, or follow laws because you're afraid to go to jail. Because then you're living in fear. You're living afraid of consequences. So it's not genuine. You're not in your heart. That's why Jesus points to the heart. So a woman accepts she's a woman and plays her role, but has an understanding of the masculine energy. This is what she observes her father. And even if he was a degenerate or not, or if he wasn't around or not, you will be aware either way, because you'll attract, because it's already in you. Somebody in your life, whether it be a partner, whether it be a friend, whether it be somebody, it doesn't matter. You'll attract somebody that's going to mirror your father figure. And it's up to you to be aware of that. And you observe that. You don't associate with it though. You take what you need, leave what you don't. It's kind of like me when I was climbing up the ranks to be a manager. You don't necessarily have to learn while you're in the position. You learn from the one that was above you, the one getting audited. You learn from their mistakes. You don't repeat mistakes. You learn from their mistakes. You have the choice to either learn from others' mistakes and don't repeat them, or experience your own mistakes, which is a little more detrimental, but can you handle that? So a woman, for example, being feminine energy, she's of the negative nature. You notice how they say Satan's her daddy? Because she's of the negative nature. But it's not evil. It's not bad. It's just of the negative polarity. You just have an awareness of this and you play that role. But religion has you believe that it's evil in a sense where it's bad and good. There is no bad and good. You're just the negative aspect of the polarity of positive. That's electromagnetism. That's what your body's made of. That's why men have estrogen in their body too. You know what I'm saying? When you feel like you're in the wrong body, let's say, you have a mental disorder, okay? This is a lot of, this is where shadow work's important. But you can't out yourself, right? Because you're here to finish the life sentence. It's like escaping from jail. You come right back into jail, you get caught, and or like running away from home, you won't be able to sustain yourself because you never got to know yourself. You have to mature yourself here. When you're fully mature, you can ascend and you can overcome humanity. If not, you come right back into it. Because it's not just living the sentence and getting nothing out of it, being in the physical. The key is to actually develop that you're born rich. Bob Proctor says this. He has a book that says you're born rich. Everything else, as far as like poverty, is just bad ideas, negative thought patterns, and bad ideas fed into your mind, and you buy into it. It's kind of like somebody coming in here saying, cancer runs in the family, and you buy into that. Now you're doing the ritual. You're doing exactly what your parents did that caused them the cancer. They eat a certain way that caused them their cancer. So you go and eat it. You believe that cancer runs in the family. You're a perfect recipe for disaster. You may even develop a disease because of your inflammatory behavior. That's why they say anger, stress, anxiety. That's why gay people should actually have acceptance. Be at peace with yourself. And when you have this, you actually say to yourself, I'm less inflammatory. Because if you continue on with these inflammatory behaviors, guess what? You eat inflammatory foods that cause this. That's another perfect recipe for disaster. So it's not only the foods, because I've seen people live to 90 eating garbage all their life. We would say, oh, that's genetics. Oh, this guy looks good for his age. It's not even just the genetic part. It is, but it's also the fact that they didn't like have a conducive chemistry to have them buy into the area of either aging quicker or diseases, because it got neutralized with a loving, harmonious attitude. Because that's what life's about, attitude. When you get everything lined up as far as like behaviors, thinking, what it's called attitude. What you saw, and the attitude you have toward it is what assembles your reality. Attitude. Your imagination can take you anywhere and give you anything you want. They say God is outside of space and time. That God, a year to God is 1,000 years to him. I can assemble a whole reality in my mind in less than, and maybe in like 30 minutes. But not everybody can actually sit there and actually focus on something for so long, right? This is why you're disconnected, because the key is the imagination. You feel according to what you're projecting. But this is weak, because that frontal cortex, that focus muscle is weak. Because we have, look at what society runs on. Shorts, little reels, but never on something that you can actually focus on directly. I've rambled on for a long time. I wanted to make my points, and I think I've made my points. If anybody has anything that they want to add, leave them in the comments. Check this out. I want to read this last thing. What makes an action gay? Is being gay a choice or something you're born with? Hold up. I'm reading the wrong thing. What makes an action gay? Heterosexual, having emotional, romantic, or sexual attractions to members of the other sex. Gay, lesbian, having emotional, romantic, or sexual attractions to members of their own sex. So it's a feeling, right? It's not like you're choosing it. Like, I can't choose to like a guy. My body responds. It gets turned on by a woman. So I react to that. Now, I almost forgot. I'm glad I pointed this out, because I steered in the wrong direction when I was talking before. When we were talking about why be fruitful and multiply, right? Because how do you know heterosexual isn't a sin too? Like being gay is a sin, right? It's only religious thinking that actually has you believe if it's a sin or not. They're both just states of being. That's not affecting anybody unless your actions are predatory toward other people and infringing or into other people's lives, or trying to push it on others. That's when it's a problem. Was Jesus a virgin? Jesus never had sex. So if you're trying to be like Christ, Jesus was celibate, all in the interest of developing his superpowers that makes him Jesus Christ. He came out the Virgin Mary, who was a virgin, right? Moses, you notice how look at the word Moses. Moses means drawn out the water, right? Jesus came out the Virgin Mary. Mary means water. Maritime, marina, marry, marriage, Mary. He was, but think about this though. We have ideas, and Jesus is an idea, just like you're an idea. Every one of you are all ideas, and you have an idea of yourself, and you express that idea of yourself to others. This becomes your identity. Not the illusion where they say, let me see your ID. So you have an identity. You identify as that, right? But your body is born of another human womb, right? But the idea of what makes you you, and that Christ within you was never born and never dies. The body does. The body. You endure the sins of the world, you carry this cross. But you get your ancestors out of hell, right? This is why you save humanity, because humanity is everything you know of outside of you, the entire planet. The ones in your DNA, right? This is why I say I unlocked my DNA. What does that mean? When you unlock your DNA is when you become aware of a trauma, something that was in the dark. You had ancestors, right? The idea of what that is. The spiritual community talks about this, which a lot of times is just another religion. But think about it though. all these traumas, if the ancestors live in you, they're experiencing this in you. And it's like a team rooting for you. Come on, you could do it, you could do it. They're depending on you like if you're depending on Jesus Christ to come back and save you. But it's all you. Whatever idea you have of the Jesus Christ saving you, it's you. And the same way, the ancestors in your body is another idea. Who's doing the saving though? The moment you save ancestors from the hellish state they're in, you know what you're doing? And getting the feminine energy out of hell. Like you say, you get the woman out of hell. You bring it into the light. You're saving humanity. You're saving your ancestors and freeing them from hell. But if you die, right, you may come into another body. And again, these are ideas. You may come back into another body because you have not overcame the sins of the world. You have not overcame humanity. You did not get to know yourself. You didn't change as an individual. You're here to transform. Bring the kingdom of heaven to life. You're still that child that you may see in pictures. Let's say you're a 5-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 12-year-old, and you see pictures of that. You say, I was a little boy. Look how cute I was. You still are that little boy. You just change the way you do things because your body changes. It's kind of like somebody buying into the aging process. You age faster when you buy into the fact that your body slows down when you age. If you stay active and you don't buy into the idea that, you know, you should slow down when you get older, then your body will accordingly slow down if you believe in that. But if you don't buy into it, your body stays young and active. Everything keeps working accordingly. Now, keep in mind, chemicals, the shit that you're putting into your body, of course, is working against the grain. There's a lot of guys in their 30s and 40s that I've met that got erectile dysfunction, which has a lot of contributing factors, which could be through, and I'm gonna make a separate video on this. It could be pornography, it could be the foods they're eating, their mentality, the way they treat themselves, everything. It's a contributing amount of factors that lead to this, right? Because back in the day, our forefathers were having sex till the age of 90, right? But we started buying into these ideas. But aside from that, it's also the toxins that we're introducing ourselves to. So keep that in mind too. It's not just, but it is only in the mind. Because I made examples of, there's yogis that have worked themselves up to a state of ecstasy and they drank strychnine and it didn't affect them. That's true mind over matter. So yeah, technically, mentally, a lot of things can change as far as things affecting you, chemistry. But the more you learn, it can also be a virus. The more you learn. Knowledge is power, but that power can also corrupt. So if you keep learning that all these toxins are making you sick, those are the first people that get sick. Because now they're living in fear and worry that it can happen to them. Sometimes ignorance is bliss to that extent, but there's people who take this power and don't let it influence them in a negative way either. Because it's always a double-edged sword. It could be, there's paradox there. It's like saying attractiveness, right? Feminine energy is attractive, but it could be positive and it could be negative. It could be distorted or it could be balanced. Beauty is attractive, but so is drama, right? So you see, they're both attractive. They both have the same effect, but one is toxic and one is positive. So if you use this power, use it to your benefit, not to your detriment. So liking the video does help my channel out a lot. Put a lot of work into this one too, which is crazy. But I wanted to journal this because it's very important to me. The reason that this topic is so important is because it really gets down to the psychology of the individual, the choices that people make, the whole indoctrination with religion, the education system, the importance of shadow work. It's the reason why. And you hear these people online and they're just spreading mind viruses. And I don't know, but in my state is more or less when I know better, I do better. But I don't come in here with the the ego to say that it's a fact, because I'm still very open-minded to being debunked. But from the position that I'm in, I don't think I can get debunked here. There's things that I know and there's things I know I don't know, because I'm not gay, right? So there's always avenues of things that are possible. But if I find something that I wasn't aware of, it puts me in a very grateful state. Because in the fact that I stood up for something I knew, that I know, so I will speak up on it, it can actually open up an avenue for me to learn more about it. So I'm not in my ego about it. I don't associate with my information. So like, share, subscribe, and by the way, that's the reason why I engage in conversations with people that I don't see eye to eye with, like do debates and shit. How boring would it be for me to always watch people that I have the same like concept of things with? It's like I'm not learning anything. I mean, you can grow from there, but sometimes looking at it's like religion. They'll tell you don't go into astrology, right? Look at only astronomy. Don't learn about the devil because it'll influence you to do bad, and it's bad. So just learn about God. So it's like you stay handicapped. That's why I engage with people who I don't see eye to eye with. Like, share, subscribe. We'll talk soon.